Gary Simon here of DesignCourse.com, and today we're going to be digitally painting, and I'm going to aim to try to make this a beginner's tutorial, and I want to cover every single step. So if you're a beginner with digital painting, of course, all you need is a pressure-sensitive tablet. You'll be able to do this. But first, before I begin, I wanted to show you guys a page here. And this is a site called gumroad.com. A lot of digital artists and probably other creatives are, they put out tutorials here and they sell them very cheaply. And the reason I have this particular individual up here, which is Dan Luvisi, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, is because I've been following a lot of his tutorials because I've only had my Wacom Cintiq, and essentially my first tablet, for about a month now, and I've been watching a lot of his tutorials, this one, and this one down here, and they're dirt cheap, and a lot of what I'm going to be teaching today is very similar to how he paints, and also even the subject matter, body armor essentially. So I'm just going to be diverging a slightly different. I'm going to do a couple different things in my own way just because I'm more comfortable. But again, I wanted to kind of pay respect here and have all you guys give him the exposure because I'm going to be teaching similar to how he does. So definitely check those out. They're only take $2 per tutorial. All right, so here in Photoshop, if you want to be looking at the same exact interface that I'm looking at here, so you can follow along exactly as I do, you can go to Window and Workspace and just click on Painting, and then Window, Workspace, and then Reset. Well, actually, if you already had Painting, just hit Reset Painting. That way you're going to look exactly what I'm looking at. So you don't want to do that, though, if you already have your custom workspace arranged already. So let's go to File, New. And we're going to stick with these dimensions, 3000 by 2500. It doesn't really matter, the aspect for our given image. It's going to be, just like a shoulder armor piece. But you do want it to be higher resolution like this, probably at a minimum. All right, so resolution 72 is fine as well. And you can give it a custom name if you wish. I'm not going to, though. And that loaded up off screen. All right, so what we want to do is now that we have this workspace to range out, I'm going to make some adjustments to it. So I'm going to left click and drag and pull this off. And I'm also going to expand it. That way it kind of condenses everything. And then I'm also going to pull off the layers panel. And I'm also going to go to Window, Color, and drag that off and expand it roughly right around there. And then I'm also going to collapse this area over here so that we see a large portion of this. All right, so the background as well, I have it set to black. So if you just right click it, you can change, to anything you want really. I kind of do like black. That's what Dan used. All right, so for me, when I went to File, New, by default, I've had it set at background contents transparent. So by default, it is white, I believe. So I just want to make this a gray color. So we're going to switch over here to the paint bucket tool and change the foreground color just to a medium gray somewhere. 898989 is the color code if you wish to be specific, and then just left click. All right, so we're going to take this area right here and click it to create a new layer, layer 2. You can name them, probably a good idea, but I'm not going to. My keyboard's kind of off to a different desk to the side. All right, so basically, the first step is to get out our basic shape. And the part where I'm going to diverge and be completely different than what I've seen any other digital painter do is probably this first step. Most or pretty much all, I would say, that I've seen so far, I've been watching a ton of tutorials this last month. Digital painters, they will use the paintbrush tool, and they'll use a black color, and we'll change this. Now, I'm on my stylus, I just clicked a button to get this to show up, or of course you can always just go up here and choose your brush settings here, and they would use a size roughly, right around here, give or take, some pixels with the hardness up to 100%. So it's a hard brush, and with a new layer selected, just begin drawing out the basic shape of whatever it is that they want to do. And there's obviously nothing wrong with this because almost everybody does it, but I find that if I use the pen tool instead right here, because I have a lot of experience with the pen tool, I find it much, much easier. So if I just left click once, we'll see this initial point here. And then I come down and hold roughly right around here to create a slight Bezier curve. And then come down around here. And maybe back up a little quick. Now I'm using on my Cintiq the express keys for undo and several others which I will explain as I go along. Right around there looks pretty good. So that's the general shape. And you know what? I just realized I screwed up because this is in path mode and not shape mode. I don't think there's any way to... Let me just back up real quick. Well, you get to see me do it again. So make sure you have shape mode and not path mode selected. All right, so I'll do that again. You'll get to see this again. So left click. Sorry about that. Pain in the ass. So as you can see, it fills it in with color immediately, which I kind of find is desirable, because otherwise what I've seen other digital painters do is the second step will be coloring it in. Say right around there. All right, so we'll take the move tool and I'm going to hit Control T on the keyboard. Oops. And then hold Shift and Alt and just drag this up so it's a little bit bigger. Hit apply. All right, so looking at this again, we can always take the direct selection tool and adjust the anchor points if we want to, make adjustments to the overall shape. So let me pull this in a little bit so that it kind of comes in like this. Pull that in. So just imagine, a shoulder, how this might wrap around. Pull that up. And maybe make an adjustment here. Pull this in a little bit. Right around there. So if you have a shape that's like that, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be specific, perfect to mind. And so, yeah, once you get your shape out, and once, any other digital painter I found, once they would get this part done with the line, with the paintbrush, they would then take the paintbrush and fill it in manually. And that could be a little bit difficult to stay in the lines and have it perfect. Whereas using the pen tool will automatically create a nice, perfect outline. Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm going to give this a base color. And so we're going to use, if I double click on this, I'll bring up the color picker, somewhere in the blue, something desaturated, nothing too bright, but nothing too dark either, maybe right around here. It says 25282A for the hex code. And okay, so this is the very outside contour of the shape. So what we want to do now is add some other shapes within it that go around it. So once again, I'm going to use the pen tool and I will create a new layer and right click and choose clipping mask. So anything that anything outside of this shape here will not get seen. All right, so we're going to create some just a couple of others. So I'm going to start right around up here and come in like this. Now I may back up from time to time if I don't like where this is going. Yeah, maybe something like that. And up and around. All right, and I'm going to create an area roughly right around here. Come up and around. Now, again, this is not a clipping mask, but we'll make that adjustment after. let's see. Now I don't exactly like how that played out. So we can just make some small adjustments real quickly. Right click and make it a clipping mask. Control H will get rid of those outlines. You can always bring them back by hitting Control H again. Drop this down just a bit. All right, like that. I'm going to hit Control T, make it a little bit bigger. Select Move Tool and hit the space bar. All right, and then we're going to hit Control Shift and D. That will duplicate it. Control T, hold Shift and Alt, bring it in. And let's make this one the same color as this. So we can just pick that right there. Move this up, roughly right around there. This one's not going to be completely black, so we'll just get this color, but we'll make it a little bit darker. Hit OK. All right, and there will be just one more shape that we create here. And so I'm going to click right here. We'll automatically create a new layer, which is going to be a clipping mask if you had it beneath one that was already a clipping mask. And again, I'm still using my stylus here. Coming down. Yeah, maybe right around here. And then around. Oops. There we go. All right, so now this one will be black. This initial one right here is going to be more like this color. We'll hit OK. All right, so that completes this section of blocking out the major parts. So now we're going to actually get into the painting aspect of it. But first, let's go ahead and take these layers here. I'm going to hold Shift to select all of them and hit Control G to group them, and then Control Shift D to duplicate. And if you don't have that, I'm not sure if that is a shortcut that's on Photoshop by default, or you're just going to right click and duplicate group or layer, whatever. But I duplicate so many times, I definitely use a shortcut for that. So that's just a tip for you guys. And so this group one up here, I'm creating this so that we can have the same exact shape layers. Because what I'm going to do now is take all of these, I'm going to hit Control E, which I know that is a default shortcut, and that merges everything onto a single group. So we can hide this, and this will come in handy later. And so you'll see why once we get to that part. All right, so now is the actual digital painting part. So now what we want to do is take the brush tool right here, and if we right click, or you use your stylus to click, we'll bring up the brushes here that we have. Now, depending on whether or not you've added brushes in the future, yours may look completely different. If you don't mind about possibly losing those and you want to see what I see, you can just go click on this menu and hit Reset Brushes and OK. All right, so these are the default brushes that ship with Photoshop. All right, so these down here are charcoal brushes, and so if we just click on one that says 63, it doesn't really matter which. There's some different settings that go along with each one of these, even though they look the same. And those settings can be found. I have this set on a express key on my Cintiq. You can set this as well if you wish. I believe the shortcut here under Window is Brush Presets, possibly, or maybe just no, it's Brush. Yeah, this is what we want, and from now on I won't use that, and I'll just use my express key to bring this up. So tutorials and courses probably could be created just for learning how to use this, because it gives you a ton of control over your brushes, specifically if you're using a tablet. So to create the brush that we want to use to paint, most of this, and to give it this sort of, sci-fi metal feel or whatever, we're going to have to create some very specific settings in here. And so I'm using a brush settings that are going to be very similar to what Dan used, the person I discussed at the beginning of this video. So the first thing we want to do is under brush tips shape, you want to make sure you have spacing on at 5%. The size, that's just the size of the brush by default. That doesn't really matter too much. We want to come down here, turn on shape dynamics, and make sure pen pressure is specified. And we want to make sure that for this, the minimum diameter is set to 80% or around there. And come down here to 80, or actually maybe around 60. I think it was around 63 actually. And then we want to turn off dual brush, but we want to turn on texture. And for scale, we're going to leave right at 58%. We want to change this mode to subtract. And then we also want to change the depth here to 80%. And then one final area is transfer. And we want to make sure pen pressure and pen pressure is both on. All right, so now that is out of the way, you can save that brush preset if you wish by clicking over here, new brush preset. I'll go here and just call it Painter or whatever. All right. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and just close that out. And we want to make sure that we have this color here selected in our foreground. So switch back to our brush. And we're going to make it just a little bit lighter up around here. Now you don't have to be specific, just somewhere in this general vicinity will definitely work. All right, so we're going to be started here. I'm going to increase the size of my brush a little bit, and we're going to assume that the light source is coming from, the primary light source will be coming from this way, this direction. And so naturally this side of it will be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and just start painting. And you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and undo all of that because I made a big mistake. I did not lock that layer. What you want to do before you begin that is actually click this little button. It kind of acts like a layer mask, except it's on the same layer itself. So anywhere you paint will be constricted with being inside of the shape that's defined already in the layer. So sorry about that. Kind of like that. And obviously, since we do have in the brush presets the pen pressure specifying the transfer, the harder you press, the lighter it will be. So as you get out further this way where there's less light, you can, and I have this set up through an express key on my tablet or my Cintiq, you want to color drop or color pick the colors that you're already working with, and very slowly work with fading these in and out of each other. So it's a good idea to definitely get in the habit of doing that. So if this is like one of your first videos you're watching, definitely take the time to set this up correctly and get used to using your keys and your shortcuts. And it will be, like I found, everything is still fresh in my memory in terms of, just learning how to do this, this digital painting. And I found that when watching tutorials, it's a little bit difficult to follow along when you're not familiar with, all the shortcut keys and your tablet and all that stuff. But it just takes time. You have to stick with it. Otherwise, you'll definitely get discouraged. And so I'm just kind of trying to get rid of some of them, the areas that maybe, you can see clearly defined lines that separate some of these. It's not entirely 100% perfect. You don't have to get it perfect right away. But as you can see, they're kind of slowly going away as I do this. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to go and get maybe a little bit, quite a bit brighter of a color here. And I'm going to stay just along the edges here. Oops. So let's undo that. And again, the Control Z, I have that set up on the express keys. All right, so now what I want to do is start to define some of these inner contours around here. And the way you do that, of course, is through highlights and shadows. So basically, we'll go ahead and get started with this one right around here. All right, so it's kind of important to get the this portion right in terms of correctly defining where the highlight's going to be versus the shadow for the light source. So I'm going to just color drop and color pick this color right around here and make it slightly lighter. And I'm going to scale down the size a little bit and just come down through. I don't want to be too messy about this. Just like this, coming around. And if you screw up, you can always fix it. You can always color drop this part and maybe bring this in a little bit. And really, it's just a matter of just trying to, well, essentially muscle memory. You really just want to try to keep on practicing with getting these shortcuts correct. And sometimes I will screw up a little bit and press the wrong thing. All right, that is decent for now. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this a little bit darker inside here. So if I take this color right here, and maybe not that dark, or that hard, I was pressing a little bit hard here. All right, and take that color here. Back up, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And then I want this material to kind of appear very reflective, almost maybe like a sort of leather or something like that. So the way we'll do that is first let's go ahead and just color pick this absolute, it's almost black right there. And let's get rid of some of the paint strokes that we had on there. All right. And for this, we're going to use, still sticking around in the blue, but not 100% white, but almost very light blue like that. And so to do this, we're going to want to zoom up, and this is as well. I have this set as a hotkey, on my or express key. And so let me see what this looks like at this size. And one thing I think it would make sense if we bring up our brush presets again, or the brush panel, we could probably turn off texture for this because there's not necessarily texture on something that's very reflective. So it'll respond quite a bit more, I think, when you press down. And so we'll just do this a few times. And you can be random about it. Now, if you make little adjustments like this, it's going to make it appear kind of rough. And, that's entirely up to you if that's the direction you want to take it. And this is just a lot of different reflections, essentially, that are occurring on this thing. All right. And then one tip that I learned from Dan as well is we can use the lasso tool and come on down around here maybe. All right, and then right click and choose feather. And we're going to change, so just hit my mic, hopefully I didn't mess it up. We're going to change the feather radius, I'd say to maybe 5. Hit OK. What that will do is it'll feather, from the edge based on what we're about to paint in here. So if we right click this and we choose a feather brush, you go pretty large, maybe right around here. And we want to get a color. First we'll go ahead and color pick maybe right around here. We'll see what this looks like when we add this. Just pressing very lightly, just like that. And then we hit Control D to deselect. We'll see what that looks like. I think maybe the feathering was a little bit too much, so I'm going to back up. Go back here to Lasso Tool, Feather. I'm going to try 3 instead. All right, and we're going to do the same thing real quickly. Maybe like that. I'm pressing very lightly. Control D. It's kind of having the same effect. I wonder if when I feathered it before, I'm going to redo this really quickly. Sorry. Right click, feather, 3, and then we'll go back. Okay. All right, that's a little bit better. And so it kind of creates a very soft reflection. Maybe we can do that just one more time. Again, I'm still using my stylus. And then what we'll do is right click, feather, hit OK, and come around right around there. All right, so that looks pretty cool so far. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to head and focus on these 2 edges right here. All right, so we'll go ahead and switch to our other brush, which is right there, the one that we created that's custom. And we're going to scale this down quite a bit. All right, I don't know why my computer's making that noise when I do that. And so we'll start with this outer edge right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just color pick this color, maybe make it a little bit lighter. And we'll zoom up. Now my mic is kind of in my way, so it's making it hard for me to access this express key, but I'm going to use it. And this allows me to rotate the canvas. So I think Control R might be it, but again, I have it set up on my Cintiq. So I'm going to switch back to my brush, and that allows you to kind of easily go around areas that you need to. So it's good to get experience essentially, with using this. So still, this isn't a great angle. So what I'm going to do is also flip the canvas. And because I've have this rotated kind of funky, one second, let me flick this back. There we go. It's going to make it easier for me to go along this edge. All right, so let's see here. We'll start on the inner portion of the edge. And it's just a very thin edge, as we can see. And I'm going to switch back here. So if you need a moment to pause because I'm flipping and stuff and you don't got it right, yet, that's completely fine. All right, let me zoom out. Now we're also going to want to add kind of like on the outside a darker color that will help define this edge, this rim a little bit. So what I'm going to do is we're going to flip. No, we're going to, let me take this back and flip it up like this. Drag it down. All right, so we're going to take the color pick it right here, or we just make it darker. Okay, so I know this is rather boring. Nothing I can really talk about. Let's see here. Flip it. Drag it up. All right, almost done with this area. Kind of like that. All right, so one thing we definitely want to do as well, if we come down here, kind of add this so that it goes over this highlighted part. And we'll make some other adjustments to make it, this part recessed a little bit right there in a little bit. But so let's go ahead and zoom out. All right, we have this all flipped differently. I think this is it. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so now we're going to do essentially the same thing here for this inner portion. Let me close this out. And don't worry, we're about to get to the the fun stuff very shortly. So yeah, the same process, the same method that we did over here, we're going to do for this area as well. All right, so what we'll do is color pick here, a lighter color. And this time I'm just going to really try to test my hand-eye coordination, and because I'm trying to battle this microphone that's sitting around right next to me. And I'm sure I probably bumped it and probably have some weird audio issues that have occurred. Hopefully not though. Damn it, this is a hard angle. All right, that's fine. And then take this, go a little bit darker. Let's see here. Come on the inside. We may not end up seeing this portion though, but we'll see. All right, so now I want to create some kind of just destructive elements to create the idea of wear and tear on this thing. So what we'll do is get a lighter color, and we'll make it pretty thin, or a small brush, like that. And we'll just do this in a couple different areas, like that maybe. And then what we want to do is get a darker color here. Make it a little bit larger brush, and then slowly make it smaller as we get towards the edge. Kind of like that. And do the same thing down here. Kind of pressing a little bit lighter the further we get away from the crack itself. All right, so that's just kind of a quick way to create cracks. Let's go ahead and get the same sort of color, maybe up around here. and get a real thin, small brush, and you can create just some random areas of just scrapes and scratches and such. All right, so now what I want to do, this is going to be the part where we utilize these shapes right here. So what we're going to do is add a honeycomb pattern over this inner circle portion right there. So what we'll do is, I did a search just on Google for free honeycomb patterns basically, and this is one of the results. I downloaded it. You can download it right down here. This download button's kind of hidden. And then once you download, just open up I think it's like a RAR or a zip file. Yeah, it's a zip file. And then double click on the PAT file. And what it will do, essentially, it'll switch to Photoshop, but nothing will seem to happen. But what we want to do is go to File, New, and I'll just make a size that's pretty large, 2000 by 2000. And what I'm going to do is just fill this in with a color here. Maybe we'll go like a brighter blue right around there, and double click on it, and that's going to bring up the layer styles, and we're going to go to pattern overlay. For the actual pattern, we're going to choose one of these. This is what we downloaded. That's what actually got added. So there's a lot of different options here. It seems as though there's some thicker ones and some thinner ones. It gives you a lot of options based on whatever look you're trying to achieve. I think this one in and of itself will probably be pretty good. So yeah, we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then what we want to do is hit Control A to select all, and then Edit, Copy, Merged. Then what we'll do is we're going to open up our group here, and with this layer selected right there, we're going to hold the Control key and left click right there. That's going to give us an outline or selection of that exact shape. And then what we'll do is hit Edit, Paste Special, and Paste Into. All right, so that's not exactly how we want it, because it extends a little bit, because that's how the shape was based on the layer mask, but we'll fix that. Don't worry about it. So we'll hit Control T. We're going to scale it down just a little bit, holding Shift. We're going to rotate it a little bit like this. And then right-click and hit Warp. So we want this to look like it's, along the contours of our armor, essentially. So we got to move these and play around with them a little bit in order to get it to look like it's, actually kind of 3D. In a sense. All right, and just moving these around. And this doesn't look too bad. Just pulling this down along the edge. I think right there is okay. Select Move Tool and hit Apply. All right, so what we can do now is take this initial layer and Control and left click, and then go to Select Inverse, go back up here and hit Delete. That way it gets rid of that edge up there. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out on top of that group layer and hide this. So it looks okay now. Well, not really, but that's where all the magic comes in with blend modes, layer blend modes, which is right here. So if you select it, and you can see it's barely highlighted blue, you can use your down arrow key to filter through the different layer blend modes to see, different appearances and different looks, essentially. And there's a lot of different cool ways that this kind of shows up and presents itself. So I just got to the bottom. I think I liked, one of the ones that I liked pretty decent is a color dodge. And I think that's kind of it. So color dodge will work for now, right around there. All right, and so we can also make adjustments. We can go to image adjustments and play with the adjustments here in terms of the color and saturation, or we could play with, let's see, adjustment layers themselves. So if we go to Windows Adjustments, this gives us kind of a dynamic, non-destructive way of experimenting with the different values here. So yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to stick with the destructive way, just because I don't want things getting sticky later on. So curves, you can see we can make it brighter or not. We don't want it to stick out too much, although we're kind of going for a glassy material. So I think right around here will work. Yeah, that's fine for now. All right, and I do want to kind of make it look like it's been shattered. So we'll take the lasso tool and come in right around here. You know, do whatever you want. Hit delete. And let's see here. Yeah, I don't want to yet get rid of the selection, just because I want to make this a different color down here. So color pick this area and make it kind of darker, or color pick this area and make it maybe somewhere in around here. And then go back onto our group here, our group layer, which the rest of the painting is on, and kind of start painting inside of here just for now. I'm going to stay inside just this ridge. And so remember, when you're trying to blend things, remember to color pick a lot. And then I want to come in a little, quite a bit darker on just underneath that area. Maybe not that dark. All right, and I do want to, we're going to make this a little bit thicker, this darkness. And then inside of it, I do want to make it look like there's a thickness to the glass. So what we're going to do is we'll color pick, let's see, oops. Oh, I just, instead of hitting the color pick, I accidentally hit undo. So let me do that real quick again. All right, and there we go. I have to make sure I'm hitting the right express key. Now, if we hit Control H, actually, it won't do anything. I thought it would. Yeah, that will allow us to paint without seeing those marching ants, essentially. I'm going to come up a little bit brighter. I'm going to get rid of the texture as well. I'm going to make this smaller, actually. I think this needs to be a little bit brighter. Actually, let me see what white looks like. And the reason it was showing up kind of like that is because transfer was on. Let's see. Just on the very, very edge. All right, something like that, I'd say is okay. It almost kind of looks like it's a little bit too white. I shouldn't have done that. So let me just go over this very lightly. All right, that's good for now, I think. All right, so looking at this, let's go ahead and I'm going to take this here, these two layers, hold Control, hit Control E. That's now going to merge everything. And I'm going to work with the reflective area of this to make it stand out a little bit better. So we don't want texture on still. So let me go ahead and increase the size of this brush and see. Now let me see here. Oh, yeah, that's because that's Control D. Yeah, we have to make sure we deselected that area because we had this only selected for that time. Let's see here. Somebody's calling me, of course. And all right, so sorry, my wife. I had to answer that. All right. Okay, so let me come down over here. Yeah, that's fine. Just like that, I think. We want to make sure that this layer is still locked. We don't want to go that way though. All right, and we can also come around the edge. Yeah, we don't want it to look crappy like that. There we go. Up there as well. All right, so I also want to give it our own custom pattern in this area right here. It's going to really help kind of bring this out a little bit more. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to come back to this document, or just create a new one if you closed it by accident. And we are going to, yeah, actually, never mind. We're going to create a new one anyways. We're going to make it just a relatively small 40 by 40. All right, so we're going to fill this in with a kind of darker blue right around there. And I'm going to zoom up a bunch, and we're going to take the ellipse tool, come out in the center, and drag out a size roughly right around there and make it black. And then we're going to go to Edit and then Define Pattern. Let's call it Pattern 20 or whatever the preset is for you. All right, so then we're going to bring back our group here. And let's see, where is it at? It's this shape right here. All right, so what we'll do is, yeah, I think that should work like that. Yeah, I think that'll work. What we can do is I double click on this. We can actually just deselect it and bring up pattern overlay. Actually, no, we don't want to do that. I'm sorry. What the hell am I doing? We're going to go back over here, change the pattern overlay to the very bottom new one that we created, like that. Select all, copy merge. And what we'll do here is do what we did before, and I'm just going to, yeah, we'll just control and left click, and we will create a new layer, and then we'll put it outside of the group, hide the group, Control V to paste, oops, go edit paste into rather. Make sure you select the layer. All right, so this is real large. Hit Control T. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I think that'll be fine right around there. And then right click, warp. And just move these around. Kind of like this. Remember, we're not going to see this portion, but we're going to see the outside. So as long as these are a little bit larger and they get smaller coming in, we should be fine. Let me drag this. Yeah, that's fine right there. Okay. All right, so we'll select Move Tool, hit Apply, and let's go ahead and change the layer blend mode just to see what this ends up looking like. Let's go back to our group though, run real quickly. Control left click on this layer, and then come out over here and hit Delete. One second. There we go. We had to click on it for that to actually work. I'm also going to select this one, Control left click, go to Select Inverse, select back up here and hit Delete. Alright, so let's go ahead and keep on experimenting with the different blend modes now that we have this in place. That doesn't look too bad, although there's not a lot of contrast, so let's keep on going on. This one, there's kind of not enough. So, going through these, you can always add or make adjustments to how it's, you're not constricted to just this appearance alone, because you do have the option of, let's try soft light and experiment with adjusting the curves and such. All right, so we'll go to Image Adjustments, Curves. A lot of guys have that set up as express keys as well. I don't yet. And maybe pull it up over here, hit OK. Image Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. See if that does anything. And it does. Let's see, right around here looks pretty good. And hit OK. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's not too bad looking at it from this angle. All right. On second thought, I don't really like it having this much color, so I'm just going to go Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and turn that down. The saturation, that is. And hit OK. All right, so let's go ahead and just do a couple other things. We're just about almost finished. Go ahead and take this color here, and yeah, let's go ahead and merge up some of these layers. There we go. And let's create an area that kind of makes it look just kind of like, I'm going to make that smaller. 1 second. Like this whole portion is just kind of broke. Maybe like that. And then we'll get a darker color, maybe even just almost black. Right around there. And on second thought, this may be a little bit, quite a bit too bright. Roughly something like that. There, I think that makes a little bit more sense. So sticking out when it's way too bright. Over here, it's a different material, so perhaps it's a little bit different. But yeah, as you can see, you can really experiment with this quite a bit. I think it's looking a little bit too bright over here in this section. So if I just take this color over here, let me make sure of something, make sure the layer's locked. There we go. Make sure we stay inside of the lines. All right, something like that. And something like that, maybe. Well, we'll see. Yeah, that looks okay, I guess. All right, and that is it. This is already kind of a longer tutorial than what I wanted it to be. So yeah, that is pretty much my first tutorial on digital painting. I kind of suck, but yeah, hopefully you guys liked it and learned quite a bit. I tried to cover every step imaginable, so somebody who's really experienced not teaching will probably be able to knock this out a lot quicker. But yeah, hopefully you learned a lot, and yeah, be sure to check out designcourse.com and subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't yet. All right, talk to you later. Goodbye.